Hi, everybody. This is our final session for this course. Let's study Chapter 10 Corporate Governance here. Before we study corporate governance, I'd like to remind you of some implications of Section 8, Chapter 7 and 9. We learned about build, borrow, buy model, and I highlighted that M&A is the most risky corporate strategy, but this strategy has been quite popular because it's really expedient and very convenient to go into a new market. And I also introduce sort of the combination of strategic alliances and mergers and acquisitions, which is called real option strategy. Okay, so here is chapter 10, corporate governance. So what is corporate governance? Corporate governance is the set of mechanisms used to manage the relationship among stakeholders and between stakeholders and top managers. So, the real mechanism of corporate governance is all about direct control of an organization or enterprise. And here you can find two keywords. The first one is ownership, and second one is management. In the modern US corporation world, the ownership and management are separate. I'll let you know the details about what it means. But in a large number of small or family owned companies, ownership and management they're not separated, and one man or woman covers every role. So here's an example of GE. GE really had a long history, and if you see GE's main shareholders, owners, you can see a lot of institutional owners. You cannot find any family members of the founder of GE. They're all diluted, and you can find really big financial institutions as a major owners for General Electric. So in the case of General Electric, we can say ownership and management, they are separate. But we have a different story here in Amazon. Amazon was just founded about 20 years ago, and if you look at the Amazon's owners, Jeff Bezos, he is a major owner of this company, and he's also working as a CEO, top manager. So here, in the case of Amazon, there is no separation between ownership and management. Jeff Bezos is doing everything here. Okay, and here's a board of directors. Board of directors stand between shareholders and CEO. Their basic role is monitoring top level CEO or managers. Why? Sometimes CEO, sometimes they have really strong power. They might use their power to maximize their interest, not companies' interest. And this is a really big problem from shareholders' perspective. And this is why shareholders need board of directors to take control of CEOs. Board of directors, they can appoint CEO, and if CEO is wrong, board of directors can fire CEO anytime they want. And this is a picture showing the position of shareholders, board of directors, and top executives. Shareholders, they are basically owners. But owners, they cannot run a company because there are so many owners. For instance, you can buy some shares of Apple and you can play like owners, but there are tens of thousands of owners of one company. So it's technically impossible for them to run a company, and that's why they elect small number of board of directors, between 5 to 20 on average. And that small number of board of directors decide who will be the next CEO or top executives. They appoint CEO, and CEO can wield their influence. They use their power to run this company. So you can see two-step mechanism here. Shareholders elect board of directors, and board of directors appoint CEO, and obviously CEO manage all people in the company. And here's a quick question. Please read the description. What is the answer? The answer should be A, right? If CEO and chairperson are different, chairperson can control CEO. And as a result, it can reduce the power of CEO. But if one person does both CEO and chairperson, then it's impossible for a chairperson to control CEO because only one man or woman is doing everything. And as a result, CEO might have more power because there's no monitor from the board of directors. So let's take a close look at board of directors by using an example of GE. You might find some interesting facts by taking a look at this case. GE board of directors consist of 80 members. They have all different backgrounds. Some of them are from companies including GE. You might see a very small number of professors, and you can see some politicians or other people, having different backgrounds. They meet every month on average, and you can see a relatively high number of female directors compared to 10 or 20 years ago. Because these days many public organizations are emphasizing the diversity of board members, and well, it's still lower than 50%, but you can see an upward trend in terms of the proportion of female directors over the last 10 years. And here is one interesting story about board of directors. Do you know that Steve Jobs got fired by Apple in early 80s? It's quite interesting because Steve was a founder of Apple. He owned a lot of ownership of the company, but he was fired because he had a serious conflict with then CEO John Scully. And when their conflict was escalated, the board of directors step in and they decide and they concluded that Steve was wrong, and they sided with then CEO John Scully. And Steve was so angry about it, and then he left the organization. And this is more detailed description about the relationship or conflict between Steve Jobs and the board of directors of Apple at the time. Um, and you will watch one video after this. John Scully described that situation 10 or 15 years after he uh, left Apple. And this is really interesting video, so please don't forget to watch this. Please click on the link um, under this YouTube video and just spend 10 minutes to understand what happened inside Apple 30 years ago. Okay, now we can see the power of board of directors. Board of directors can hire or fire CEOs as well as top executives, so they're really influential. You can get some information on board of directors if the company is a public organization by taking a look at 10K or other media company websites. You can find some famous names um, from the board of directors of some companies. If you take a look at the structure of board of directors of Apple, you can find some interesting facts. For instance, you can find Tim Cook here. Tim Cook is a CEO of Apple, but interestingly, he's working as a member of board of directors. He is called insiders because he's actually working for a company. And Tim Cook here, as you can see, has two roles. One is a CEO, the other one is um, member of board of directors. And you can see one familiar name who is Al Gore, who was a former vice president of the United States. He's working as independent board of director members. He's an outsider. He never managed Apple before, but he is working as crucial member of board of directors, and he has a decision power to make a crucial decision on Apple, and he can make some influence on hiring or firing some really top executives of this company. If you compare Apple's board of directors and Apple's management team, you may not see overlap. I mean, if you work as board member, you are less likely to work as top executive and vice versa. But Tim Cook is an exception. He's working as board member as well as CEO. So he has dual roles here. He manages the company and also he's working as the board member. This phenomena is called CEO duality, and these days you can see an increasing number of CEO duality because uh, CEO really wants put his or her influence on board of directors. Amazon has a more extreme case. If you look at Jeff Bezos, he's CEO. It means he controls company and also he's working as a chairman of the board. And he's also number one owner of this organization. So Jeff Bezos plays everything. He's major shareholder, I mean owner. He is a chairman of board of directors and CEO. So Jeff Bezos' power is really unimaginable. He's really king of this organization, which is a little different from other public organizations like GE or even Apple. Tim Cook is CEO as well as a board member, but he's not as powerful as Jeff Bezos because he's not major owner of Apple. Okay, this is CEO duality, which is defined as the practice of a single individual serving as both CEO and board chair. CEO duality was not that common 20 years ago because the separation between management and ownership has taken for granted for a long time. But these days, you can see an increasing number of CEO duality of some organizations. I mean, many CEOs they play as a member or chairperson of the board of directors. So is CEO duality good or bad for the firm's performance? Well, it's a little hard to say or answer. Some people say that CEO duality is good because it means the unity of leadership. There is no conflict between chairperson and CEO because only one person is doing both. So one person can push his or her organization in one direction, and that's really efficient from the leadership's perspective. But some people say that CEO duality can be dangerous because chairperson cannot control CEO because again, only one person is doing both. So from the monitoring perspective, CEO duality is really bad idea because nobody can control powerful CEO here. Uh, Many researchers have studied the relationship between CEO duality and firm performance, and they couldn't find any clear conclusion, and there is no clear empirical relationship between CEO duality and firm performance. Okay, as I mentioned before, please watch the video on Steve Jobs and John Scully's relationship. This is really interesting. And chapter 10 has a little, how can I say, unclear structure. So I took a look at the textbook, and you don't have to read all the subchapters. Please read the chapters that I mentioned in the first line. And also don't forget to read 10-5 A and B. I didn't explain this part, but it should be interesting for you to compare the US corporate governance with other country um, governance. So one or two questions will be from 10-5, so please don't forget to read this chapter. Yeah, and that's all. I mean, thank you so much for taking this class. I never expected that I would say like this way goodbye to all of you. But many congratulations on your graduation, and I really wish best of luck with all your future career. If you have any question, please feel free to ask me anytime, and I'd be more than happy to answer your question. And I really hope you learn a lot from this course. Thank you again.